The Rock, the highest paid actor in the world, I think. I think The Rock is the highest paid actor. He has come out against Generation Snowflake. When The Rock has snapped, you gotta recognize, no, hold on. We've got Ellen DeGeneres being dragged. Kevin Hart, 3 apologies. And you know what? The Rock has had enough. And when The Rock speaks, that means you are all the fringe element, and we need to stop listening to these people. Like, why is it? Well, no, I'm not even going to ask. Here's what I'll say. The media loves to take one tweet, and claim it's everyone. Look what happened with Ocasio-Cortez and that dancing thing. One Twitter account with no picture, it was a QAnon account, said, Cortez is a nitwit for dancing. And then everyone, even the New York Times, were like, the conservatives tried to smear her. And Cortez says, I guess the GOP thinks dancing should be illegal. And it's like, dude, the Republicans were defending you. What are you talking about? Fake news. The point is, what happens then is that people pull up these nonsense tweets and act like they're real. And then everyone panics. Businesses freak out. It's time to stop. But you know what? Maybe all of this weird stuff happening in the culture war is just going to build a callus for industry. Pepsi, stop being so scared. I'm not saying specifically Pepsi. I'm saying just like these big companies need to stop being terrified of tiny little people on Twitter. Red Lobster just canceled their ads on Tucker Carlson. Why? Who cares? Because 30 people complained on Twitter? Well, let's see what The Rock had to say. He says, if you are not agreeing with them, then they are offended. And that is not what so many great men and women fought for. In an interview with Daily Star published Friday, wrestler turned highest paid actor Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson landed a crushing blow on Generation Snowflake in a strong defense of freedom of speech. Bravo, The Rock. I've always been a big fan. I think he's a great guy. He's a nice dude. And now I'm really proud and I respect his stance on freedom of speech. He says, while it's great that people, well, they say, not him, but Daily Wire says, while it's great that people now feel more free to be who they want to be, said Johnson, who hosts the new physical challenge show The Titan Games, too many people in the younger generation are attempting to clamp down on free speech in the name of being offended. This mentality, the 46-year-old said, flies in the face of what our brave military heroes have fought for. Wow, that's a kind of a bold statement, because the left has never been overtly pro-military. They try to dance around the issue because they don't want to be disrespectful to the military, because the military is extremely important for the United States. But the conservatives overtly support the troops. You turn on Fox News and they're going to be like supporting the troops, and CNN will be talking about why Trump is bad, right? So, but the point I'm trying to make is, like The Rock is coming out and saying straight up, like, brave military heroes are fighting for this. We need to defend these rights. The Daily Star provides some context for Johnson's comments, noting that he chose to speak out after a flood of snowflake stories at the headlines, including F1 banned the much-loved grid girls over sexism fears. Uni leaders banned clapping in case it upset soft students, and there was an outcry when Equality Foods demanded a rebranding of the tasty treats to gingerbread people. The clapping thing hit more than one university. It's been going on for like a couple of years, where they're telling people to do this, here, you do this, instead of clapping, because clapping is scary. Listen, in the world you may hear a loud noise. If clapping upsets you, you're not suited to go outside. You ever, I've been to many conflict zones, okay? In these conflict zones, there are gunshots and bangs. Admittedly, most of the places I've been have been like 95% riot control, less lethal weapons. Still scary, not as scary. But I've been in situations with real bullets. Ferguson, people shot in my general direction several times. There's actually a segment from a Vice News clip that actually I reference very often when people are like, how do you know what you're talking about in conflict? Here's a video of me diving behind a transformer box as you hear automatic gunfire. People, and then the cops run up and they're like, run. I was in Egypt. People got shot. It happens, okay? The point I'm trying to make, when I go outside, okay, it's abated for the most part, but PTSD is a real thing. I don't think I suffer overtly from any kind of PTSD. But you want to talk about triggers? You want to talk about being offended and scared of clapping noises? Let me tell you what it's like. And I defer to the military, to those who've actually faced combat. I've only been on the sidelines, filming and witnessing. And there have been times where I hear a car backfire and adrenaline spikes, and it's like flashbacks, okay? But it's not that big of a deal for me. But that's what a real trigger, it actually is. It's something that's a genuine trauma. Clapping is not that. They banned clapping over loud noises. What do you think's going to happen if you're scared of clapping and you go outside and a car backfires? I've actually been in these situations, and a car backfiring doesn't faze me, other than give me an adrenaline spike. It's like a Pavlovian response almost. So I don't want to say it's necessarily, I'm not trying to say in any capacity it's PTSD. It gets really, really bad with people who've experienced real death and seen their, brothers and sisters fallen in combat. And that's what triggers are supposed to be about. You want a trigger warning? I will give a genuine trigger warning for legitimate issues to people who have faced legitimate trauma. And that does include some domestic and urban issues. It doesn't include clapping. I'm going on a tangent. Let's go back. In response to more evidence of this troubling free speech clampdown, The Rock told the outlet, "I don't have to agree with what everybody thinks, who they vote for, what they voted for, what they think, but I will back their right to say it or believe it. That's democracy. So many good people fought for freedom and equality, but this generation are looking for reasons to be offended," he added. "If you are not agreeing with them, then they are offended, and that is not what so many great men and women fought for." While there's certainly been some positive developments in recent decades in terms of tolerance and generally making the world a better place, he told the outlet, "The snowflake's perpetual offense culture is making us go backwards. We thankfully now live in a world that has progressed over the last 30 or 40 years," he said. "People can be who they want, be with who they want, and live how they want. That can only be a good thing. But Generation Snowflake, or whatever you want to call them, are actually putting us backwards." He actually called them Generation Snowflake. The Rock, I am now your biggest fan. Not only do I like The Rock's movies, not only do I think he is a good actor, and he's got a great story, he wanted to be a pro football player. I've seen so much stuff from him on Reddit where he does great outreach to try and lift people up and be a good person. He deserves all of his success. Now I read this. Look, the Generation Snowflake thing can be a bit unnecessary. But the point is, by him saying something of that regard, I'm like, wow, he really means it. He really does. To come out and say that, he legitimately says, listen, man, these rights are important. Freedom and equality are important. That's a stand-up guy. He's not scared of the outrage mob. He's going to call them out directly to their faces and say, chill out. Bravo, man. But I guess there comes a time when you've got FU money, and you can sort of say these things, like Notch, for instance. Notch, he can do whatever he wants. He's the guy who made Minecraft. He's a billionaire. He just goes on Twitter and says, hey, here's what it is. What are you going to do about it? As the Star notes, The Rock's Snowflakes comments come as the armed forces released an instantly viral ad campaign targeting snowflakes, and as comedians, including Ricky Gervais, have begun to push back harder on the outrage culture's attack on comedy and free speech in general. "Please stop saying you can't joke about anything anymore," Gervais tweeted on New Year's Eve. You can. You can joke about whatever the F you'd like. And some people won't like it, and they will tell you they don't like it, and then it's up to you whether you give an F or not, and so on. It's a good system. Among other big free speech perpetual offense headlines in recent weeks is comedian Kevin Hart's decision to step down as Oscars host after decade-old homophobic comments resurfaced. Sure, but they were meant to be jokes. And I'm going to say this too. James Gunn's jokes, in my opinion, were really, really, really awful. There's a lot of conservatives who think he deserved to be fired. I still don't. Count Dankula made the best point I had seen. He said, "This is just edgy boy's first Twitter." Okay? And when you get outraged because he made these comments, you're don't play into that game, because they do the same thing to Dankula. And I understand there's a big difference between Dankula making his dog do a silly, the Dankula video. And there's a big difference between that and James Gunn making these overtly creepy children-based jokes. Again, but I don't think we should be the morality police drawing the line on which one is or isn't. You want to talk about Nazi Germany? Well, that was an egregious affair too, and some people might feel the same way you do. So that's why I typically err on the side of, for me personally, not a fan of racist jokes or things of that nature, but I get it. It's comedy. People when you go to a comedy club, you might hear some stuff that'll blow your mind. Really, really offensive stuff, because people try things out. Comedy pushes the line, it finds it, and then it dances on it. People act like Louis C.K. used to not be offensive. It's we're talking about his whole bit in 2012 was being racist. 2 days after he was announced as the next host of the Academy Awards, Hart announced that he was stepping down after the Academy demanded he apologize again for the comments. Hart has since said he is done apologizing for mistakes in the past. Yeah, but Hart did apologize 3 times. First, he said he wasn't going to do it. Then, later at night, he tweeted out 2 apologies. Then he apologized again. I believe I don't know if it was an apology on the Ellen show, but he went on Ellen's show, they talked about it. Then everyone went for Ellen, okay? Listen, these are opportunists. Opportunistic outrage. Props to The Rock for standing up to those who would try and do this. And I wouldn't be surprised if they come after him, for real. But The Rock is an American treasure, untouchable. He's a great actor, he's a great personality, he's a good guy. I don't think they can ever get anything on The Rock. But I wouldn't be surprised. because they dragged Kevin Hart, and he apologized for a third time. Don Lemon did like a huge segment on Kevin Hart, like a 10-minute segment. So at some point, I think we all need to realize, final thought, the fringe wackaloons on Twitter do not represent the greater public, and I'll just say this, Twitter is not real life. It's not. Go outside, knock on your neighbor's door, and ask them, what do you think about Generation Snowflake? And they'll say, I have no idea what that is. What do you think about Kevin Hart in the Oscars? They'll be like, what are you talking about? Go on the streets and ask people, they'll say, I have no idea what you're talking about, man. So it's good that people focus on it, because we don't want it to grow out of control. And it's good that people as famous and influential as The Rock are willing to stand up and say, no, we're not doing that. Anyway, thanks for hanging out. I'll have more videos tomorrow on the main channel at 4 p.m. and probably another video at 10 a.m. We'll see if I can make that happen, and I'll see y'all next time.